Um, so everyone should be able to see my screen. Elena, you can see the PowerPoint, right?
Yep, we're good. Absolutely.
Okay. So we're just going to jump into it. So what is LinkedIn? So LinkedIn is basically your professional presence online. So Elena was mentioning how important it is to have a really great professional presence online. Your social identity is super important these days, especially with the current state of the economy and how everything is virtual right now. People are going to be Googling you. And so we really want to make sure that your LinkedIn really demonstrates your professional presence in a way that will attract employers. So the way that it works is you basically create a profile for yourself, just like you would on like a Facebook or an Instagram, but it's a professional profile. And then you would use that profile to connect with other professionals in your field or in your areas of interest that you think will be helpful for you to network with. Now, the way LinkedIn works is it's this concept of degrees of separation. So if you think about it, when you're on like Facebook or Instagram and you connect with somebody, you're connected to that person. The way LinkedIn works is when you connect to that person, you automatically become connected to their connections. So their connections become called your second degree connections. And then those connections become your third degree connections. And the way the site is set up is that when you have those networks, that your connections, the second degree, the third degree, it starts to allow you to communicate with those people, to have informational interviews, to reach out to them, to learn about what they do. So the more first degree connections you have, the more obviously other connections you have. I have like maybe 500 connections on LinkedIn, but that allows me to have like, it's like 5 million second and third degree connections. So, so that's kind of like the way that the site works, right? If you have zero connection to somebody, then the site is not going to allow you to interact with them as much. It probably won't even allow you to see as much of their profile. Okay. So what is LinkedIn? Minimize my video screen here so I could see my PowerPoint. So LinkedIn's mission is to create professionals, to give you access to people that do things that are of interest to you. So, you know, we used to say it's all about who you know, the market, the job market, you know, you need to know people. And what if you don't know people that do what you want to do? But what LinkedIn allows you to do is know people that you wouldn't normally know because it's at your fingertips, right? It's there at your computer. It's different than your resume. It's similar to your resume, but it's different. There are a lot of things that are the same. So like your job titles and dates, keywords, you know, having strong action statements, accomplishments, what we talked about in our very first session. All of that is the same. But LinkedIn allows you to share a lot more about yourself than your resume allows, because your resume needs to be one page, but your LinkedIn profile is on a computer screen, right? So you can put more on there. The other thing is that you typically write your LinkedIn profile in the first person because you're speaking to your audience, right? You want to give that personal feel to it, whereas your resume is not going to have I statements and it is going to be more in a formal tone. Your LinkedIn profile inevitably has to be a little more general because you can't have different versions like you do with a resume, but you still want to seem branded in your resume, right? So on your LinkedIn. So let's say you're in, you know, marketing, but you don't know if you really want to do like digital marketing or market research. You're kind of feeling out the different areas. You still want to have a branded tone of marketing on your LinkedIn, but maybe you talk about in there how you're exploring these two different areas, right? Whereas your resume, you might have a version for each. So I love this slide. You can probably find this online as well to keep handy. But this is a profile checklist. You want to make sure that all of these basic content areas of your profile are filled out. You don't want to start networking with people until you have a solid profile, because it'll give you a better chance of them replying to you. They'll take you more seriously when they see a complete profile. So this goes through all of the areas that you want to have filled in. We're going to go through each of them one by one to give you a little more context of what you do. But I love these slides just because they're very visual and they're just helpful to see the profile, how it would look. Okay. So when you have a complete profile, your profile is 40 times more likely to receive an opportunity from a recruiter, to be reached out to, for somebody to want to interact with you. So it really is important to complete that profile. It has this thing on there called profile strength when you log on, so you'll be able to see if there are areas you need to fill in. But if you are at that all-star level, then your profile is pretty complete. And so these are some of the areas you want to make sure that you include. And again, I'm going to go over them in more detail. And I am, if it feels like flying through this, I am, because it's a lot of content.
If they have questions, they can ask a question via chat, though. I'll keep my eye on the chat.
Okay, great. So I can go into more detail on something if I'm going too quick. So the first three sections that I think are actually the most important, is where you're going to spend most of your time, are your photo, your headline, and your summary. Okay. Your photo, I know these are a little blurred out just to protect the privacy of the people on them, but what we really want you to look at is your photo. So maybe we could throw it into the chat box. Of these photos, what do you guys think? Which would be your favorite one? We can say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. Let's see. Elena, do you actually see any? I can't. Oh, there's.
Yep. Oh, I see all the photos, but I mean.
In the chat box.
Oh yeah, everyone. Sorry, I should. Everyone says, someone said none. I'm hearing 1 or 2. Someone said a 3. Another 1 or 2. Another 3. 1, 1, 3, 4. Great. We got a 4. 1, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2. It's a big mix.
Right. So you do want your profile to be some sort of headshot. I could probably critique all of these photos to some extent, but you do want your photo to be a headshot, right? We typically want it to be professional, so you'd want to be in some sort of professional attire. You would also want to make sure the size is correct, right? So if this one's a little small, we want to make sure that it fits the screen. This one is really not super professional, but we are, sorry about that. We are going to, we'll talk in a second about like when you would use something like this. But I will say that the easiest way to do your photo is to put on a blazer or a collared shirt, stand in front of a white wall with good lighting. So we could probably critique the lighting in this first photo, and take a photo of yourself on your iPhone, and then you can manipulate the lighting and upload that to your LinkedIn. So it doesn't need to be a professionally taken photo. It doesn't need to be something that you need to like spend any money on. But you do want to make sure that you're conveying yourself in a professional way. Now, some people I know are wary of photos. They don't want to put a photo, you know, they'd rather leave it blank, more privacy. The research I've seen all over the board, but it says it's anywhere from like 7 to 20 times more likely for somebody to reply to you or to reach out to you when you have a photo. Imagine if you got a message from somebody and there's, instead of a photo, there's just that big blank box there. It's less inviting, right? LinkedIn is meant to be more social. In terms of this last photo, so, you know, you also want to think about the industry that you want to go into. So if you're looking to go into maybe like a startup kind of culture or a really creative field, maybe you can be a little more creative with your photo. You still always want to be professional. I think this one lacks a little bit of professionalism. But like, for example, you know, we're career counselors at Baroque, maybe we have a photo of ourselves sitting at our desk, like doing some work, or a picture of ourselves leading a presentation. Like, it's not unheard of to do something like that. If you're pursuing a position in finance at Goldman Sachs, I would really stick with the white background, blazer, you know, plain photo. But if you are looking at like a startup, something like that, you know, maybe you explore other ideas. You're branding yourself, so you want to make sure that you are attracting the employer and the culture that they're used to in their organization with your profile. So then the next area of your profile is your headline. So this is also super important because when somebody sees your profile, the first thing that they see is your photo and your headline and your name. So you can see here, this is mine, right? And this is somebody else's in our office. It's basically the slogan for your professional brand. So you want to demonstrate who you are, what you're pursuing, what your key attributes are about yourself that you think make you unique and stand out. The headline defaults to your current position or your current education, so you do want to make sure you update that. Otherwise, it's going to just say student at Baroque College or wherever you work. That's not going to entice somebody to click on your profile to learn more about you, right? There's very little in that that is like exciting and interesting. So you could see mine here, right? I tell you what I do, and then I kind of give you like my personal slogan or how I believe what I do is related to me and is important to me and, you know, kind of sets me apart. For students, it's a little trickier to write a headline because you haven't really done as much yet, but you also at the same time have done a lot. So you want to think about what's made your time here at Baruch unique. And we have some samples here to show you to kind of help get your wheels turning.
Before we look at the samples, Kara and I, when we were planning for this workshop, it was interesting. We had a little bit of a different perspective on how to do your headlines, which, you know, everyone has a different view, I would say, on what makes the headline really like, I'd say what makes it like the most effective headline. And so I think Kara was saying her view is looking at what makes you unique to differentiate you, which I totally agree with. And then I also was thinking about, we've talked a lot in this workshop about looking at your target job descriptions, right? When you do your cover letter, if you do a referral paragraph, you need to, when you're targeting your resume, you're always looking at what you want to do and what those employers are looking for, what skills they want, what kind of work experience they want to see, and showing that you have that. And I actually believe that your headline should target those descriptions a bit, right? So still thinking about looking at your target descriptions and thinking, what have I done that would be relevant to this employer and catch their eye? And even if you haven't done it yet, putting that you aspire to do that. And that's where we're going to give you a few more examples here about how to do that.
So here are some of the samples. So some of these are not specific to students, but I just wanted you to see different, the spectrum of directions you can go with a headline. So, you know, for example, here's the second one on from a recent graduate in PR and marketing. But then what sets them apart? Or like Elena said, what are some of those kind of keywords or important attributes for that role? They have internship experience in building brands awareness and developing partnerships. So not every marketing grad can say that, right? So that's helping to set them apart. This also is intriguing to the reader, right? If this is all you see, oh, they have internship experience, I'm curious where and what kind of partnerships. Were they big? Were they small? I'd love to learn more about this person. So that's really the goal of your headline. You want to make somebody click into your profile to learn more about you and then say, I want to contact this person. Here's another one, right? A finance student with expertise in utilizing Excel for data analysis and management. So they're really calling out to where they feel they've excelled. So these are really important areas in finance, and they're showing them where they think their strengths are. Or here at the bottom, aspiring audit intern with skills in client service and documentation. Same thing. Oh, they have client service work. I'd love to see more about how they gain that. Did they have an internship? Did they do something, some sort of project or something on campus? That makes that interesting to click on.
Yeah, I actually want to add one more thing here. So just because this is catching my eye, the finance student with expertise in Excel for data analysis and management, that could be from a class project. So you could put that as your headline, even if you haven't had an internship yet, right? That could be from classwork, as well as the last one, aspiring audit intern with skills in client service documentation. Client service, that could be working in retail, you're working with clients, right? Documentation. Again, that could be from a job where you're doing paperwork or a job on campus. So it doesn't mean that you have to have had, while these sample headlines sound very professional and fancy, it doesn't mean that you've had a very professional, fancy experience already. It's just that it's all about how you are, wording the experience that you already have.
Exactly. So I will say that you'll probably spend a lot of time brainstorming your headline, revising it, changing it, thinking about it. Whereas the rest of the LinkedIn, aside from the summary, might be a little quicker, more of a copy and paste from your resume. But this area is really important. So I really would spend some time thinking about how you want to present yourself here. Okay. So now we have the summary. So the summary is going to be an expansion of that headline. So think about your headlines kind of like the thesis statement, and now your summary is going to go into really support that and explain why you believe this is how you want to brand yourself and how you want to market yourself. So keywords are extremely important in your summary, but actually all of LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is very keyword heavy, in that people will do searches for certain words and it will make you come up in their results if you have those keywords in your profile. So you'd probably want to look at some job descriptions of things that you would want to do and pull some of those keywords, make sure that they're in your resume, I keep saying resume, in your LinkedIn. They should be in your resume too. There's lots of different ways to structure the summary. This here mentions this who, what, why, which can work. Elena will probably have her own opinions on how to structure the summary, and I'll have mine as well. I really like the mixture of paragraphs and bullet points in the summary, because I think that someone who likes reading and is interested in your profile will read a paragraph, but someone who really just wants the meat of it and wants to read quickly will just jump to those bullets and read there. So I think the combo is a good tool to have, and then the paragraphs also can demonstrate your writing skills. I personally like a 3-paragraph format for your summary, where you'll talk about in the first paragraph, and here we have actually a sample right here, where you'll talk about in the first paragraph kind of like who you are, a little overview of yourself, which would essentially be up here at the top. And then where it says summary of experience, this is where I like to bullet it. This person here has these headings, which essentially has a similar like goal to it. But I like to put in the body paragraph some of your key accomplishments. Some of my key accomplishments include, and bullet some things that you maybe pull from your resume or that you think about from your time at Baroque that you think would really encapsulate that. And accomplishments could be, I held a full-time job while working as a full-time student, maintaining an above 3.0 GPA. So it doesn't have to be specific to the field or like an internship or something like that. It could also be something you really excelled in doing for a club. But I would put some of those things here. Oh, my mouse is so finicky, sorry. And then at the bottom here, they put specialties. So this is just basically like a keyword list, right? So they're listing a ton of specialties. You could do that. Sometimes I like to use that paragraph for talking about like your kind of philosophy around the work that you do or that you want to do. So you guys are students, you're learning so much. So you can develop your own kind of, approach to your work. So like if you're in finance, your own opinions on like some good investments or some areas of growth, or I know so little about finance to articulate this well, but just some like opinions that you have about the markets, or something like that. If you're a marketing major, maybe some of your things that you've learned about the best way to reach an audience, or like a new platform that you've become really skilled in or something like that. So I like that, to just think of like how else we can set ourselves apart. That's really how I think about profiles always, and I'm sure Elena has a different way that she does it that's probably equally as effective. The problem with these types of um, documents and websites is that they're subjective. There's not one way to do it. So what I encourage you all to do is listen to all of the information you're getting today, and you develop a summary and a headline and a resume that you feel good about, that you feel markets yourself in the way that makes the most sense for you. Elena, do you have anything to add to the summary?
No, I really agree. And I think you always write it with your audience in mind. So who you want to look at it and who you want to be interested in what you're saying. And I like the bullet point and the paragraph format too. I think that makes sense for whatever the prospective employer is looking at. If they want a quick view, they're going to just look at your bullets. If they want to actually read and see your writing and get more of a sense, then they'll read your paragraphs. So I like having both as well.
Right. And then at the bottom here, you see they embedded some media. You can do that on LinkedIn just to share samples of your work if you want. You can do that in any section. So then, moving on. Sorry, guys. These are some questions actually to ask yourself to help you write that profile. So this is a good list, right? How you would answer these. You can copy these down and answer them to kind of brainstorm the direction you would want to go with your summary. I think this is useful. I actually, if somebody met with me for help with LinkedIn writing, I would ask them a lot of these questions. Okay, so once you've completed your photo, your headline, and your summary, what is next? So the rest of the LinkedIn profile is a little easier. So your experience section, that's going to look very similar to your resume. You can essentially copy and paste a lot over. I personally don't think you need to rewrite all your bullets. I think, you know, what's on your resume is fine. It looks like Elena agrees with that.
Yeah.
And same thing for your education. On LinkedIn, you can add your activities within your education section. However, if you have like a really great leadership role, a club on campus, something like that, you can actually put it in an experience instead so that you can really highlight some of the things that you did as opposed to just listing it in Baroque. You can also list some of your courses in your education section, some awards that you've received or honors. You can put all of that there too. There's also, I think, a separate honor section if you want. This is where you decide what makes the most sense for you. Right? You can put a lot of content on LinkedIn, but at the same time, you don't want to bury the important stuff that somebody has to scroll on and on and on to get to what they want to find. Then there's this interesting section on LinkedIn. So it's called a skills and experience expertise section. So you would put skills that you believe that you are competent in, and then your colleagues and friends can endorse you for those skills. So you'll see here, like this person thinks they're good at research, and then 16 of their colleagues and friends have endorsed them for their research skills, saying they believe that that is true. I don't know how much weight like an employer puts on this. Like if they come to this section and say, oh, well, you only have 3 endorsements and I want somebody with 10. I don't think that really happens. However, this does affect how you come up in keyword searches, right? So it will bump you higher if they're looking for somebody with really solid research skills. So I would do this section. I don't know that you have to like spend all this time getting everyone to endorse you and have as many endorsements possible. LinkedIn is a little different than Facebook and other sites in that it's kind of more about quality than quantity, right? So the goal is not to have millions and millions of connections and skills and all this stuff. It's about really tailoring it to what makes the most sense for the brand you want to create for yourself. So that being said, you want to make sure that this list has skills that are relevant to what you want to do. Like I always give this example. I used to work in human resources and I had a lot of endorsements for all these different HR skills. But then when I made a career change into higher ed and career counseling, my HR skills were not really so relevant anymore. And so I didn't really want to be endorsed for those. And so I went on and actually deleted those skills off of my profile. Okay. So then here are some other sections that you can include. A project section, languages, you know, courses, certifications, volunteering, all of that can go on there. And then this first one at the top here is really important, called custom URL. So on your settings page, you can actually change the default URL that LinkedIn gives you. So if any of you have seen, your page will have a URL at the top that says linkedin.com/US, I believe, / and then it's like numbers and letters and a whole jumble of things. You can go and customize that URL to be your first name, last name, or your last name, first name. You might have to try a few different things if you have a more common name. And then that URL becomes yours, and that's something that you can share with people. So you can put that on your resume. If you're at a networking event, you can say, oh, to learn more about me, here's my LinkedIn URL. And it becomes much easier to share. So I definitely encourage everyone to customize that URL. Are there any questions that came in, Elena? Anything to address?
Yeah, I'm responding to a few. So one student asked about what if you have 2 fields of interest, right? Like how do you do your profile, your headline, etc. And so I'll get your perspective too, but my response is you can include both, but you have to lead with what's relevant to where you're going. So thinking about what kind of job you're looking for, like what employers you want to attract and get the attention of, and lead with what's most relevant to your goals.
Yes. I would also use that as an opportunity to say I need to do some networking and some informational interviews. And I would look for people in both of those fields and conduct 5 or 6 info interviews with each side and learn more, and then try to pick one direction that you think, okay, I like both, but I'm gonna maybe focus a little more on, finance for now, and then make your profile around that. It's really hard to have 2 very different interests on a LinkedIn profile. Like I mentioned earlier, if it's like, I'm thinking investment banking or commercial banking, that we can probably find a way to incorporate into one profile. But if it's like marketing or accounting, then, I would really say, okay, I think I need to do a little more informational interviewing and use LinkedIn for that. And then once I have a better handle on it, maybe adjust the profile to focus on one. And remind yourself that once your profile is done, it doesn't mean you can't ever change it. So you could change your mind. You could say, okay, I was pursuing accounting, but now I learned a little more about marketing. Now I want to shift gears and change my profile, and you can. So, so I think that's a sign, like, to do some of the exploration work. So once your profile is made, and I think I'm going to try to go quick because we have the activity at the end, right?
Yeah, we should try to do it.
Okay, so I'm going to try to wrap this part up in like the next 10 minutes. But once your profile is made, then you want to build your network. So LinkedIn says you want to make sure you have at least 50 connections to make the site useful for you, although I would continue to add all the time. You can job search on LinkedIn. You can learn about companies. But what Elena and I really love is the alumni portal, and using that and other searches to conduct informational interviews. That's really the most useful piece. So one area to find people is to join groups. So you can on LinkedIn join different groups, alumni groups, industry groups, areas, location groups, right? So there's a group feature where you can become part of a group, and then you can interact with the group members to find people to network with. You can also explore job opportunities. I'm going to breeze through this because we're not really saying this is the best site to look for jobs, although I think it's better than a job board. It's still a job board, right? But it's better because you can probably see people that you have connections with. You can also learn about companies, follow the pages, right? If you're applying to EY, you should be following EY's page. Now, what we love is actually the Baroque Alumni page. So this is where I think there's like 110,000 alums on here now, where you can find any alum from Baroque that's on LinkedIn and outreach to them to have an informational interview, to learn about what they do by doing this search on the site. And I'm going to show you all how to do that in a second. Sorry about that. So these are just some general tips for LinkedIn. Again, I'm just going to kind of breeze through. I want to make sure I show you the site. All right, so let's pull up LinkedIn. All right, give me one sec. Okay, so this is what LinkedIn looks like when you log on, for those of you who maybe have not seen the site before, but it's similar to, you know, any social media where you have your news feed, you have kind of all your buttons at the top. And then you also have your profile. So you can see if I go to my profile here, here's my profile with my photo, my name, my headline, here's my connections. And then here's my summary. So I actually just have a note on here about connecting with Baruch students, but then I jump into my summary. So here's that first paragraph. Here I have like a specialty section, like we were talking about the bulleted, and then here's a little more about me. And then all of my experiences below, okay? My university, my schools, any certifications, volunteer, it's all here. Here's those skills to be endorsed for. And then to show you here, this is where the groups would be, down at the bottom here. So these are the groups I'm a part of. So if you look here, here's some of those groups that you join. So the way to join groups or to find the alumni page, everything can happen in this search bar at the top. So just to show you, if I type in our school, Baruch College, and I go to the school page right here, you'll see there's this alumni tab right over here. And if we click on that, it takes us to, oh, now it's about 120. So 120,000 Baruch alums on here. I can do a search of any company. Let's throw in JP Morgan, right? So if I search JP Morgan, you'll see I'm getting 2,200. I wonder if it's how I spelled it, because I bet there's more, but 2,200 alums that have the word JP Morgan in their profile. So if we scroll down, there are these different filters here, right? So it looks like maybe the J.P. But these different filters here, if we want to maybe find in a certain region or, you know, something specific. And then we scroll down, and here are all of the alums or current students that have JP Morgan in their profile. You'll also notice here that little second, that means I'm a second degree connection. So that means that we have somebody in common. If there's a third, then that means there's two people separating us. And then you can click. So let's say maybe, oh, hedge fund sales, that's something that I want to do. So if you click on the profile, you'll see their page, you can learn a little bit more about them. And if you're like, okay, this person seems to have a really interesting role to me at JP Morgan, this is something I'd love to do, you can reach out to them in two different ways. You can either look at who that mutual connection is. So look, we both know this person. So I can either contact Jessica and say, Jessica, I see that Medina does something at JP Morgan that's really interesting to me. Would you be willing to put us in touch so I could learn a little bit more about what she does? Or if you don't know Jessica very well, or just that doesn't seem like the best route, you can reach out to the person directly. So you'll notice here this little key, that's that paid version of LinkedIn that I'm sure many of you have heard about. If you're using this properly, if you're connecting with a lot of people, if you're really focusing on those second and third degree connections or people that you're in a group with, then you should always have just the regular connect button where you don't have to pay and you can outreach to the person regardless. So I would press connect here, and then I would want to make sure I add a note. So in the note, I would add a little bit about why I'm outreaching. We don't want to ask for a job, so we just want to say, hi, Medina, I'm a junior at Baruch College. I'm in finance, and I'm really interested in learning more about hedge fund sales. Would you be willing to chat with me for a few minutes for an informational interview so I could learn a little bit about what you do? So like Elena mentioned earlier, a student sent 100 of those emails and got 8 replies, and they were able to have 8 informational interviews, which is really great.
Yeah, and if you're looking for more examples, if you remember in our last session in the PowerPoint, we included a few different messages you could send to help you know exactly what to say when you're reaching out to students or students, alum, or professionals on LinkedIn.
And I think LinkedIn says that there's like a 5-to-1 rule that you have to essentially email 5 people to hear back from one. It's just, that's, normal statistics, right? You're not going to get 100% success on something like this. So it looks like I just outreached to her, but just wanted to show you guys. So I think this is really useful. Now, there are lots of ways to use LinkedIn. This is just one. But just for time's sake, I think this is the best one. And then if you wanted to learn more, you can make an appointment with someone in our office, and we can go into other ways like how to really utilize that group section, or how to do other searches on here to find people that do what you want to do. LinkedIn also has a really good tutorial section. So if you go to, I think it's linkedin.com/students, I believe they have a lot of tutorial videos that you can watch, like how to use LinkedIn for finding contacts or things like that, that can help go into more detail. So just for time's sake, I see it's 12:50 and I know we want to do a quick activity. I'm going to end here, but hopefully this was helpful to give you guys a crash course in LinkedIn and get you more comfortable with the site.
Yeah, Kara, that was great. You got a lot of information in a short period of time. That was really,
I've done this a lot of times
good.
really quickly, so I feel like
You're good at that. Yeah. And like Kara said, it's just the start. You can always find out more. We have our Q&A session next week, or you can make an appointment with a counselor to continue to work on your profile. We review profiles all the time. Okay. You know what? I got a question about LinkedIn Premium. Should we subscribe? And I think our view of in the office is always that you don't really need it. Kara, what do you think about that one?
I've never subscribed to Premium, and I've never encountered roadblocks that I can't overcome on LinkedIn. So I think if you have enough connections, if you really build, and not just connections with anybody, like valuable connections, people in your field, friends and family, people that have jobs that are of interest to you, people that you meet at networking events, right? So the goal is not just like connect with everyone. As long as your connections are really in the area that you're looking to pursue, then you should be able to find lots of other people in those areas too. Also, that groups feature is good because, if there's 8,000 people in the group, that's 8,000 people you can interact with right there. So I think if you're using it correctly, then you should be okay. That being said, there is a free month of Premium if you ever wanted to try it, but I really have never advised a student to spend the money on it. I think you really don't have to.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So if you want to connect with each other, what you should do is you should join the Baroque College Star Career Development Center group on LinkedIn. It was just posted in the chat. So that's a great way to be able to network with each other, as well as, other graduates and everyone else who's been interacting with our Career Development Center. And those are the people who are on top of their job search. So you should definitely join that group as soon as possible. And what we're going to finish with, I'm going to give you a quick reminder, and then we're going to go right into our final activity, which we did in the first session too, which is a networking activity where you're going to have the chance to network with each other. Before I do that though, just my final reminders, make sure you logged into the kiosk today. If you had any issues, you can email me. We're going to send you a survey after this session. It's really important to fill out the survey so that we know that you are learning what we're hoping that you're learning. And we also want your feedback about what to include in future bootcamp sessions. Okay, so I know that we didn't get to talk about interviewing and virtual internships, so that might be an idea, but I read the surveys. I want to see what you're still looking for after these 3 sessions that we can include in the next round. And any other questions or thoughts, or if you just want to attend and hear what other students are doing on their job search, remember next Wednesday at 11 a.m., Kara and I are going to do a job search bootcamp Q&A session. Okay, so what we're going to do now is another networking activity like we did in the first session. We're going to put you into breakout rooms, and what we want you to do is introduce yourself. So and we're going to share the recording. I saw this come in on the chat. Yep, we'll share the recording. So for the breakout rooms, you're going to give your name, your major, And then we want you to name a professional in your network. So someone that you know who does some kind of professional work and what they do, where they work and what they do. And the purpose of this is that you're gonna hear from other students, and you're going to hear about who's in their network, and hopefully this will get you started with connecting with each other and helping each other to set up some informational interviews. So if you are majoring in statistics and you are you're right now networking with a student in your breakout group who knows someone who works for an analytics company, that's great. Hopefully you can help each other to set up the informational interview. I usually find that students are very willing to help each other and that this works well. Students like this activity. So that's what we're going to end with. Okay, if you have any questions, you can continue to type them in the chat because we'll be here. And I'm going to put you into breakout groups right now so that you can get to know each other a little bit. And remember to remember to share professionals in your network so others can leverage your network and you can leverage theirs to help each other to set up informational interviews. Okay. All right, well, with that, I'm going to let everyone go. I hope that you enjoy the weekend. I hope your job search goes well, and just know that we're here for you. Stay tuned. We've got more coming your way as far as job search support.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.